Welcome back to another edition of the White Sox here on OOTP 25. And as you can see, we are here looking at Garrett Crochet's page because he is the focal point of this offseason. I know that the idea has been floated around by Lions in the comments of possibly just even force trading the actual Garrett Crochet trade. I don't know if I want to totally do that. I'm considering it just because it would be cool to have Kyle Teal and Braden Montgomery and all those guys. But also at the same time, we're dealing with it's obviously a different universe. We're also dealing with a little bit of a different trajectory here because in real life, Garrett Crochet came off the season he had, whereas in this, he is coming off a very good season, but he's also coming off a partially torn labrum. So, that limits, I think, but, we could just pretend that didn't happen if we really wanted to. So I'm probably going to see what I can actually manufacture in the actual trade system in the game, and if I feel like it's something that makes sense, we will probably just do that. But if I feel like I just can't find anything, like if we go shop him and like the best deal I can do is like a 50 potential, possibly fourth outfielder guy, I'm just not gonna do that, and then probably try to like manufacture something that's like around enough value that I feel like is fair. I don't normally like to do these sort of like manufactured sort of trades like this, but I feel like this is a different circumstance. So, we'll see what I consider doing, what I decide on doing. But for now, still up in the air what we're going to do with Crochet here this offseason. The only thing that's for sure is that he will not be wearing a White Sox uniform for 2025. The other thing that I should mention is that our new owner, Vinny Durantes, I did mention that I was considering adjusting his owner traits, and we did indeed do that. I made it so he has hands-off involvement, but I also made it so he's a bit more of a penny pincher when it comes to the money. So he's not going to be as likely to be upping the budget for us. This was, I think, green. Now it's orange. And then obviously the involvement was where he was like meddling in our stuff. But now he's going to let us do what we want. It's just he's going to give us a little bit less of a budget, which I feel like is a good trade-off. Plus it makes sense, White Sox being sold to some fucking guy from LA. He's definitely coming in just trying to make a profit. He doesn't give a shit about making a good baseball team, but we're trying to, work with what we have here, turn this into a good organization, despite having an owner that is a very modern-day owner. Probably made his money in some sort of tech bullshit that actively makes everyone's life worse. And then the other thing we have to make a decision on is John Brebbia here. He had that weird contract where he had a player opt out that he could have decided to stay but it was weird because even if he did opt out, or if he opted out, he would have just straight opted out, but then he opts in, but then we have the decision to be like, we don't want you at $6 million, which is what we are going to do because John Brebbia is unfortunately just not what we're looking for here. Veteran, making multiple millions of dollars, extreme fly ball, just lots of red flags there when it comes to how I like to build a bullpen. So John Brebbia will not be on our team this season. And as far as just a rough idea of guys who are currently on the 40-man who we think could play a role on this team, when it comes to the pitching staff, really the only guy who has a guaranteed rotation spot is Drew Thorpe. He is just on paper the only guy I think is like an actual legit starting pitcher for us. So he's the only guy who has a guaranteed spot in our rotation, the Cal Poly man. Everyone else is just either going to be a bullpen, or maybe they do end up in the rotation. Maybe we do multiple openers and followers again this season. I have not decided. It'll obviously depend on what we can get in the offseason, how our trades, how our free agent signings go, and we shall see what happens then. But for now, the only guaranteed rotation spot is Drew Thorpe. In the bullpen, Tanner Banks could end up in the rotation, but I am kind of leaning towards him being our stopper with 35 stamina, considering he has performed best in that role. He is 33 years old, but the thing about him also is that he is still on league minimum. So, maybe after another season, we look to trade him, get value for him. But for now, he is going to be in our bullpen. And then the rest of the guys, I would say that like Funderburk, probably going to end up having a spot in the rotation, or in the bullpen. This guy, who I still haven't learned how to pronounce his name, Don't love the extreme fly ball. If we could maybe trade him and get value for him, like an equal value reliever, I would be open to that. Who's somebody who doesn't have extreme fly ball, that's definitely something I would be interested in. But also at the same time, this guy is a lefty, so, can never have too many good lefties. And then Brazoban, probably give him another chance to see what he can do in the bullpen, considering he is making league minimum with multiple options. Jonathan Cannon, going to be around for another season. Mike Burrows, same thing with him, multiple options, league minimum. And then some of the guys who we view as like a tier below that is Davis Martin. One more option, league minimum. Sammy Peralta as a lefty, league minimum, multiple options. Ryder Ryan, same sort of thing with him, making league minimum, multiple options. Seth Martinez, making league minimum, one more option. Kent Emanuel, lefty, he has multiple options, making league minimum. So, you're sensing a theme here with what we're looking for in the bullpen. And then I have Landon Knack, Nick Nastrini, and Braxton Ashcraft listed as emergency starting pitchers, because these are probably the three guys that we're looking at to possibly be in the rotation or be bulk relievers in the bullpen. So Landon Knack came over from the Dodgers in a trade. Could be in our rotation. We shall have to see. Nick Nastrini, same thing with him. Could be in the rotation. And then Braxton Ashcraft also could be in the rotation, could be in the bullpen. But those are probably the three guys that we're looking at who could end up in the rotation, aside from Tanner Banks, who, like I said, could be in the rotation, but also probably leaning more stopper role for him. And then the rest of these guys, Boyd, probably not going to bring him back unless we can get him on like a really, really cheap deal to be like a starter for us. Steven Wilson, extreme fly ball, just not really looking to bring him back. Michael Soroka, expiring contract, definitely not bringing him back. And then Nikomar Gavicius, also somebody we are not looking to bring back because he is entering arbitration. Even if it is just $1 million, he's not worth bringing back, especially as an outspoken player. So, and then some of these guys, maybe they end up waiving DFA at some point, but for now, these guys are what we're looking at to have in our bullpen here, and hope they can be good for us. And as far as the position players go, these are the guys that we are looking at to have potential roles. The rest of these guys could sneak their way into here as something. Maybe we bring in guys that move the guys off the 40-man, but these are the main guys that we're looking at to have roles on this 2024 team, and then the rest of these are just completely up in the air. Maybe one of these guys ends up starting at second, maybe Myers is in left, and we only bring another guy, but we have multiple spots where we don't really have guaranteed starting spots. And even Ben Rice, I don't know if he's a guaranteed starter, but his bat, we might do a thing where he starts at first against righties, and then Montero here starts against lefties. Or maybe we do something at DH where Ben Rice is DHing and Berry's playing first base against righties, but he's also good against both as a switch hitter. So maybe Berry plays first base both ways, and then Montero and Rice platoon at DH. We've got some possibilities. Caro, probably going to give him another chance at catcher, hoping that this framing can go up in the offseason through the dev lab. But if not, maybe he's the DH, and we figure out the first base situation between Rice, Berry, and Montero. But really the only full-time starters that we want to be guaranteed spots are Caro, whether it's catcher or DH, Colson Montgomery at third base, because he's just not a first baseman in this, or shortstop in this universe, and he was very good for us, 3-WAR player, and then Dominic Fletcher, just obvious center field candidate for us, is going to be our center fielder. So those are really the only guys that we are looking to have guaranteed spots. Pache, really good defender. Don't really think I want to bring him back. Maybe we do. If we go into the offseason and there's not really any great options, maybe we do something where Pache is our center fielder, Fletcher is our left fielder or right fielder, and then somebody else fills in on the other corner spot. That's something we could possibly do, so I'll just throw Pache in here as just an option, since he's a cheap arbitration, and we have a good amount of money that we can spread around multiple different players. But Rafael Ortega just wasn't impressive enough for me with little gap power and eye, to the point where I just don't want to bring him back, even if he is a pretty cheap arbitration. Mark Payton, he's a guy who maybe ends up still on the 40-man roster in AAA. Highly doubt we give him another chance in the big leagues. We might even just waive and DFA him at some point to open up a spot on the roster. Braden Shoemake maybe sticks around because he's a captain with good defense. He does have 2 options making league minimum, so maybe we keep him around for depth just for that purpose. Nicky Lopez 100% not coming back, even though he does have good personality and obviously very good defender. Horrible offensive player, and is making $4.8 million in arbitration this season, so he will not be back. Lenine Sosa in real life might have a little bit of juice in this. We're not 100% sure. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but don't really think we're going to lean towards trying to force him into the lineup. Maybe we do, but he's at least going to be around as a bench piece AAA guy for us. Danny Mendick, 100% not coming back. He's just completely useless to me. Plus, he's also arbitration eligible. Michael Turner is a guy who has an okay-ish bat, I guess, but not enough really power for it to be too interesting. He does have league minimum at multiple options, so maybe we bring him back as a guy who could be something, but also has no BABIP, so probably not really loving that. Gavin Sheets is another guy we probably look to trade, just because when it comes to our first base DH spot, I prefer Rice, Berry, and Montero over Gavin Sheets. So, plus he's outspoken, probably not going to be a guy we bring back this season. Probably going to try to see if we can just trade him for whatever we can. And then Tim Elko, hit a ton of home runs in AAA last season, 60 power, 50 BABIP. Not great eye or gap power, but also going to have a ton of swing and miss. But he is somebody who has a bunch of options making league minimum, so maybe we keep him around as a depth first baseman, but he's probably nothing more than that. As far as some guys that we have in the minor leagues that could play roles in the big league club this season, Will Banfield is one of them. We traded for him from the Miami Marlins at the trade deadline. Did horribly in the minors offensively last season, especially with us in AAA, but obviously a very good defensive catcher. Maybe he ends up as a backup catcher for us this season. Who knows? Maybe he's our third catcher. Andre Lipschitz could be an option for a first base, third base sort of guy. Maybe not. So we'll have to see if he develops some of this gap power. Maybe we throw him in the dev lab. But he could be an interesting lefty masher type bat for us. Zach DeLoach, I just don't really think is that intriguing with this 45 gap and 45 power. Sure, he's got a decent amount of BABIP and eye, but the outfield glove isn't super good. Not really any juice in the bat, so I don't really think he's somebody we're really looking at to be anything for us. Kai Bush out of St. Mary's, he could be a lefty pitcher who could end up in the big leagues at some point for us this season. He is somebody who is Rule 5 eligible, so we will have to make a decision on him. He's an extreme ground baller, 60 stamina, has at least 50 movement and 50 control, with potentially a couple good pitches to go along with it, so we'll see if that can develop for him. Brooks Baldwin could possibly be an option for us in the big leagues this season, 24 years old. He is not Rule 5 eligible, but he was a player who dominated AA this year with a 142 WRC plus with a 3.9 WAR, 27 doubles, 28 home runs. Walked a ton, struck out less than 20% of the time, and 927 OPS. Bit of a high BABIP, but not quite as high as it was in High A the year before. Has some speed to his game as well. Not really going to be a great defender in the infield. Does have some better range in the outfield, but probably still more of a left field, right field guy. Probably more so left field. But definitely an interesting utility type player. Maybe ends up playing second base, left field for us. We shall have to see, but definitely an option that we are considering. Jose Rodriguez is another guy who had a good year in AA for us with the Birmingham Barons. He had a 4-win season with a 140 WRC plus. Very similar year to Brooks Baldwin. And he's a little bit better of an infield defender. Definitely not a shortstop, though. Definitely more of a second, third baseman. A really good speed profile. And he has some good avoid K, 50 BABIP, but then very slightly below average gap, power, and eye. So that's definitely going to limit what his bat can do for us. We also have Brian Ramos, who had a decent, or I guess pretty good season in AA. Only played 67 games, though, but put up a 2.6 WAR with a 158 WRC plus, a 986 OPS. Looks like he could be a good power bat. He's a high leader, high work ethic guy. Probably more of a third baseman, he is a third baseman, first baseman type. Probably more so of a first baseman than third baseman at this point with these defensive ratings. We definitely need him to develop a bit more before he's really that interesting. He might be a prime dev lab candidate trying to get some more juice out of this power. Shungshae Cheng, the Taiwanese shortstop second baseman who we picked up from the Pirates. He is somebody who could be a very good potential option for us at some point in the big leagues. 23 years old, lefty-righty guy. Had a good year in Double-A with Altoona before we traded for him, and then kind of struggled here or I guess he was good in Double-A both ways, but then struggled in Triple-A when they had him in Triple-A. But this glove, the 55 turn DP, definitely going to limit him at shortstop. Maybe he's a guy we try to improve in the dev lab defensively. But interesting enough bat, the 50 BABIP, 50 gap, and 50 I with this really good speed profile to, where he's a guy we're looking at who could be a good glove up the middle in the defense. Lloyd L. Chappelli is another guy we have who's interesting. BABIP, gap power, and I. 85 speed with 70 stealing ability, 60 range in the outfield, can play really good left and right. Probably give you at least a decent center field as well. Not a starter, but can definitely spot you. Maybe he's like a fourth outfielder type guy for us. We have Hudson Head, who we picked up from Pittsburgh with 70 range. He's probably somebody who's he is somebody we're probably going to have to add to the Rule 5 because he is Rule 5 eligible. That's the same with, by the way, for Chappelli. Cheng is not Rule 5 eligible. Ramos is. Rodriguez is, and then Baldwin isn't. We also have somebody like Terrell Tatum, who doesn't have any juice in his bat, but he does have decent BABIP and gap to go with a really, really good eye with this speed profile. Really good defender in the corner, mainly left field probably. Not going to be a great right fielder with this arm, but could be a really good left fielder. Maybe he's like a fourth outfielder type guy for us. We have somebody like Oscar Colas, probably more of a first baseman. I mean, he looks like he could be a decent right fielder. Definitely needs some more juice into this bat before we really look at him as like a serious player for us. We also have Jacob Gonzalez, second base type possible for us. We are definitely going to be throwing him into the dev lab, trying to boost something, whether it's BABIP, gap, power, or I. It's probably either going to be gap or power. I'll probably lean power, but maybe we do gap. Although he does only have 40 speed, so we're probably going to lean power for him and try to turn him into like a high avoid K, high power guy. Lefty-righty bat. A lot of lefties we've got coming up in the system, I'm realizing. He had a really good year in high A Winston-Salem with the dash. Samuel Zavala is an interesting player for us. He dominated high A last season with a 1-2-3 WRC plus on the 4 WAR, 34 home runs. 14 swipe bags at a not great rate, but 60 range in the outfield, can play you a good corner, good speed profile, has a good eye, gap power, could develop. Another lefty guy. Definitely going to be intriguing. Probably another guy we're going to throw in the dev lab here. And then we have Noah Miller, who we picked up from the Dodgers here at the deadline. Unfortunately, he has a 45 potential, at least according to our high scouting accuracy. We are trying to get a scout profile on him here, but 70 range, 70 errors, 65 arm, 60 turn DP. Definitely still an intriguing shortstop, even if his bat isn't that great. But he's another guy we're definitely going to be throwing in the dev lab, trying to at least probably move up this BABIP or gap power. We will have to see. You may notice, though, not a lot of pitchers that are popping up as guys who are like immediately ready to come up to the big leagues and pitch in the big leagues for us. Jonathan Santucci, though, he was a second-round pick for us this previous draft in 2024 to Duke, lefty pitcher. Didn't have the greatest time in A-ball, straight to A-ball from the draft, but his ratings definitely intriguing enough to where he could develop quickly and get himself to the big leagues quite fast. Brody Brecht, same sort of situation with him, second-round pick. A little bit less developed than Jonathan Santucci is, but still a guy who could develop decently quickly. We're hoping he does. Oh, and I forgot to mention Jake Cousins, who we have in AAA. We never called him up this past season simply because he was just kind of getting rocked in AAA with a 2.3 home runs per 9, walking way too many guys. I just wasn't really impressed with what he was doing in AAA, so we never called him up. But, he is a controllable reliever with good stuff, good pitches, ground baller. Definitely somebody who we will be looking at to add to the 40-man roster here. Alrighty, so we have gone ahead and added some of our players to the development lab here, 10 players to be exact. First one, Colson Montgomery. We're trying to increase his bat speed, get that power up. We want to tap into this 60 potential power. Self-explanatory stuff there. Christian Pache. We're probably going to lean towards keeping him around, especially if we can get this gap power pumped up. If we can get like a potential boost on that with a current boost, a Juan Padilla type boost perhaps, I would love that. We can get his defense out there. You know, we're going to keep him around because he is only a 1.5 million arbitration guy, so we can afford to bring that back for another season, and then like if this dev lab doesn't work with him, we can just probably let him go in the offseason, or once we get to spring training or past spring training. It's, you know, no big deal, but we're probably not planning for him to be like option number 1, but he could be like a backup option at center field for us. And then we have Brian Ramos. We're going to see a lot of generate bat speed on this list. Brian Ramos is another one, third baseman, first baseman down with the Birmingham Barons, a Cuban. We would like to see this power tapped into. If we could get a huge power bump, turn him into like a 60 power guy, that would be fantastic. We also get Hudson Head, trying to turn him into a power defense guy, 70 range. If we could get his power up too with the potential boost perhaps, I would love that. Kai Bush, trying to improve his secondary pitches, already has a 50 fastball. If we could improve maybe this slider or this changeup, that would be fantastic. Maybe get this stuff up along with it. Then we have Jacob Gonzalez, the 2023 first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, indeed, out of Ole Miss. We are trying to tap into his power. He is 35 out of 45. Try to get a current and potential boost on that. Then we're going with Samuel Zavala, trying to get a power boost for him. Self-explanatory stuff. Has a bit of tap into here. Current and potential boost, hoping for that. Then we have shortstop Noah Miller, trying to get into some gap power for him, because I don't really think the power is going to be a big thing for him. Plus, he already has only a ground ball hitter profile. So we're just trying to go at some gap power for him. Although maybe we go BABIP, but gap power is a medium in this. So we'll stick with gap power for Noah Miller. And then Jonathan Santucci, we're trying to tap into his control. He has 40 out of 50 on that currently. We're going to see if we can try to get that along with these potential ratings, or get this bumped up to go with these potential ratings, I should say. And then the last but not least is Jacob Berry, the switch-hitting first baseman we have up in the big leagues. We are trying to tap into his power because he is 50 out of 55. If we could get a boost on the potential and the current for him, that would make him even more intriguing of a player to have at first base. Yeah, so we're looking at a Crochet trade right now, and if I do prospect package with Allow AI, I mean, we don't get anything that's even remotely interesting to me. Like, it's just like one guy who's maybe something, and then like a bunch of 40s and 45s, or like, I mean, look at this. This is an actual offer that we're getting. If I do a single player package, there are people who, or a single player search rather, there are players who pop up who are interesting to me, like the Red Sox trying to give us Ceddanne Rafaela. That's interesting. We don't have him fully scattered though. But you know, if we did something like that, we wouldn't be able to get Rafaela and other people. Also, I can't recreate all of the real life trade because the Red Sox don't have Braden Montgomery in this because he was an actual 2024 draft pick. I don't know who took him in this, but he is not on the Red Sox team. Mydroff also just isn't really somebody who's interesting to me. Like, I guess he gets on base, but like, you know, not really interesting aside from that. Doesn't play good enough defense. Isn't going to hit doubles. And even Kyle Teal in this game isn't really rated that well. So he's not even really that intriguing to me. But a couple players who popped up were both from the Twins. So I'm leaning towards trying to structure some sort of deal with the Twins. And here we go. Brooks Lee, my man, and Walker Jenkins both pop up here in this single player package. So I'm trying to maybe do a thing where we get Brooks Lee and Walker Jenkins. But the thing is, if I do that within the game without forcing it, like if we go Walker Jenkins, they'll do that straight up, obviously, because they've offered it to us. But if we add on, for example, Brooks Lee, they say they're still considering. RGM hates it. Who gives a shit? If I say make it work, we would need to give them Colson Montgomery to go 1-for-1, or 2-for-2, rather. It's, you know, I'm not doing that, obviously. I feel like this is pretty good value. I'm giving you a in his prime 26-year-old at the start of the season, ace starting pitcher, and you would give me like one of your best current prospects and then like a really good second baseman, who in this Brooks Lee, his clock has not started yet. He is making league minimum, but his clock has not started in the big leagues. Obviously, neither has Walker Jenkins. So I'm considering just kind of doing Crochet for Jenkins and Lee and just kind of checking commissioner mode, forcing that through, and having that just be the trade that we do, because I don't know, that feels like it's fair to me. And as I've shown you, whatever the game thinks Garrett Crochet's trade value is just not up to what Garrett Crochet actually is. You know, for whatever reason, when you crank the trade difficulty in this game, even when you're on default, really, there are just teams that just won't trade. They just will not give up players no matter what you give them. You can give them a guy like Crochet and they're still just like, I'm not going to give you this 50 potential prospect. So, you know, we're trying to work within the system here. I think we're going to do this. I don't know why we are labeled as a win now team. That's ridiculous to me. But I think we're going to trade Crochet in division to the Twins for Walker Jenkins and Brooks Lee. If we throw on Tanner Banks as well, we would need to also throw in Brooks Baldwin as a prospect to make it work. I mean, it's ridiculous what you need to do to just trade for two players like this. A 55 potential guy who could very easily just bust and do nothing for us. And then Brooks Lee, who's obviously closer to a sure thing as a 40 overall and 55 potential. But like, these guys aren't projected to be superstars. And the game is acting like I'm, trying to give them like a mediocre starting pitcher for nothing. Like in this universe, Edouard Julien is considered a better potential prospect than Walker Jenkins and Brooks Lee, who are both 55s. So, it doesn't make much sense to me. But I think I'm set on this. I think we're not going to try to do anything else with this. We are just going to go into commissioner mode, and we are going to force this trade. Walker Jenkins and Brooks Lee coming to the White Sox for Garrett Crochet, getting what I think is good value for this both ways. And we're trading in division. You also have to keep that in mind. This is a risky trade to do in division, but we're doing it. I just think those are the two best guys we can get that were offered to us. So Crochet going to the Twins, and Walker Jenkins and Brooks Lee going to the White Sox. Okay, now we've done the trade, and now I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have done that, because Walker Jenkins, when you move him to a corner, goes up to a 60 potential. Brooks Lee, also a 60 potential when you move him back to second base, which is where we're planning on playing him most likely. I mean, he did hold his own a little bit at shortstop in Double-A and High-A, but like not in Triple-A for whatever reason. This is a reason why I don't like getting into these, manufactured force trades, because stuff like this is just like, it's a thin line you're walking here. I mean, it's, take one step and all of a sudden you're just like you're ripping off the CPU. You're basically like game breaking, making it too easy for yourself. But you step in the other direction and, I don't even know. But yes, like there's no way to like go in here and like just be like reverse the trade that just happened. Like I would have to force trade them back to each other, and then you're starting to get into the thing where like, what is this going to do to their morale? Is their morale going to get all fucked up to where, they're playing poorly because they're pissed off because they've been traded 6 different times or whatever? So I think we're just going to do this. We're going to do this here. So yeah, Garrett Crochet is now a Twin. Brooks Lee and Walker Jenkins are now White Sox. And if people have a problem with that, I don't know. Fucking who cares? Go find me a guy on YouTube who puts more effort into caring about trades like this than I do. Like, just to illustrate the level of just stupidness that the AI trade does in this game, or the AI thinks about trades, the Red Sox just offered me Reese McGuire, who I guess in this universe is a 50 overall catcher. I guess that's why, but he's coming off a season where he was not good. Like, I mean, who gives a shit about this guy? And they would expect us to give them Ortega, who we're not going to bring back. Jacob Gonzalez, who's a 50 potential prospect, was supposed to be, he is our first round pick from 2023. And then Brian Ramos, who could be potentially a good player for a 29-year-old catcher who's going to make, he's well into arbitration. I mean, this is like the same sort of, like, this package is what, like, I was getting when shopping Crochet. And they're expecting it for Reese McGuire. Does your trade value just, like, rocket when you masturbate in the back of a cab? Alrighty, so we have reached the point of the offseason where the awards are given out, and we're just going to quickly run through these. In the National League, the MVP in this fictional 2024 universe was Ronald Acuna Jr. In the American League, it was Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. The National League Cy Young was Blake Snell of the Giants. The AL was Luis Castillo of the Mariners, the World Series winning Mariners. The National League Rookie of the Year was not Paul Skeens, but it was indeed Jackson Merrill of the Padres. The American League Rookie of the Year was Jackson Holliday of the Orioles. The Reliever of the Year in the National League was Edwin Diaz, and the American League was Emmanuel Clase. We did not have any Silver Slugger winners, obviously, and then when it comes to Gold Gloves in the American League, we did not have any of those either. Alrighty, folks, we have reached the point in the offseason where we have gone and signed our international free agent class. So here's the roundup of what we did in that portion of the offseason. Aten Meesters, a Dutch shortstop, was our biggest signing, 70 potential player. Looks like he could be a potential superstar for us. Hopefully, we're able to develop him into that. Obviously, super far away from the major leagues at 16 years old. We signed him for $2.6 million. That was by far the biggest one that we did. Then there was also Manny Maldonado. Manny Daddy Maldonado. Huge gap power. Good bit of power as well. 60 outfield range. High leader, work ethic guy. He's 18 years old. A little bit older than the rest of these guys. So hopefully a bit closer to the major leagues. We got him for $490,000. Then there was Cameron Saunders, a Australian pitcher, reliever. Only throws 2 pitches, but he does have 35 stamina. Decent personality to go along with it. Looks like he could be a nasty ground ball pitcher reliever. Then we also picked up Armano Campana, an Italian infielder. Probably not a shortstop, probably more so a second or third baseman. But interesting bat here, line drive hitter. Seriously good gap power, high adaptability. We picked him up for $460,000. Did I show Saunders' number? Saunders was $110,000. He was very, very cheap. Rogelio Encinas is a infielder we picked up. Definitely a third baseman with this turn DP, but really good high work ethic, intelligence, the holy duo there. Line drive hitter, decent bat. We picked him up for $280,000. And there was also Jerry Rojas, another interesting-looking reliever, really, really good at holding runners, elite hold runners as a lefty, potentially nasty reliever for us, high adaptability. Picked him up for a measly $150,000. And then there was Luther Good, mainly going after this guy because he's German and his name is Luther Good. Do I have to explain anything else? Right-handed guy, curveball cutter, possibly really, really nasty. Picked him up for $150,000. And then there was Edo Tall, another Dutch international here. 65 framing, 65 blocking, 60 arm, high loyalty, low financial ambition. Potentially a decent bat to go along with this really good catching profile. Pick him up. Very interesting player. Edo sounds like a nickname that somebody in Liverpool would call somebody. Did I say how much we got him for? We got him for $430,000 was his total. Alrighty, folks, we have reached the end of the offseason here. We are prepared for the 2025 campaign, but before we jump into it, it is time, as always, to go over everything that happened here in this offseason. So let's just dive right into it, because Thursday Night Football is about to start, and I can't miss that Shabuzi intro, baby. So right off the bat, we do end up firing Pedro Grifol. He is no longer the manager of the Chicago White Sox. And now, back in Chicago, Joe Madden. He is now the manager of the Chicago White Sox. for stint number 2 in Chicago. Obviously, used to be the Cubs manager when they won the World Series, then a very not great run with the Angels, and now back in baseball here in 2025 after that short stint where he had that really annoying MLB TV ad. We also had to replace our pitching coach who retired, so we hired Mike Guilfoyle out of Jersey City, really good at teaching pitching. A legendary teaching pitching, blue everywhere, pretty self-explanatory stuff there. We did end up bringing back Christian Pache, signed him to a 1-year extension worth $1.45 million. We did end up also re-signing Matthew Boyd. He is back on the team here. We gave him a 2-year deal. Only one of those is guaranteed, though. It's 1.46, and then a team option at the same amount with a buyout of $150,000. He also gets a bonus if he pitches 160 innings, and he is going to be in our rotation this season, at least to start. We shall see how things go. Oh, and I used to start in this in November, but in October, at the very end of October, was when we made the Garrett Crochet trade to the Minnesota Twins. We got Walker Jenkins, who was in Double-A to start the season for us, and then we also got Brooks Lee, who is obviously on our big league roster. Don't love these wearing number 20. We don't want him wearing number 20. Oh no, he wears 2 in real life. That's taken. He wore 72 at the Marlins, and that's also taken. Next best thing, he's wearing 77. Brooks Lee's new number here with the White Sox. So now skipping back to December, once free agency opened up, we actually had a shit ton of money to spend, and just, not like, I mean, we might as well have spent some. So we were going out spending some money and, avoiding the guys that have compensation, though, spending some money on guys that we could just sign on short-term deals, and maybe we're not good, we trade them at the deadline, or maybe they are good and they helped us actually being a good team. The first one we did was Walker Buehler. We signed him to a 4-year deal worth $42 million. Unfortunately, in spring training, shoulder inflammation. He's going to be out for 4 months. Going to miss a good chunk of the season. We did sign him to a multi-year deal, though. It is 3 years guaranteed, so he's going to miss a huge chunk of this first one. And then he has the next 2 seasons, his age 31 and 32 years. And then there's a team option for his age 33 season with a $1.1 million buyout. So, when we signed him, he was normal injury prone-ish. You can see here. It might go down to fragile now that he's gotten that injury. That's why we signed him, was he was still normal, and then, still gets hurt. So we were counting on him to be a big part of our team this season and be like our ace. But unfortunately, gets injured in spring training. We also signed Jose Quintana, who had a decent season with the Mets in 2024. Around league average, 2-WAR player, sure. He was a 60 when we signed him, as you can see here. Unfortunately, he has dropped down to a 50 since then, now in spring training. You can also see it here. But still, we're expecting him to at least pitch the rest of the season, or at least pitch this one season for us, because we signed him to a 1-year deal worth $2 million. Might as well. Then we move things on into January, where we pick up a couple more free agents, and you can see these numbers. They're big numbers because these guys wanted multi-year deals, and I only wanted 1-year deals, and we just had so much money to spend, and I obviously wasn't going to spend it on compensation guys and lose it on draft picks while we're still a rebuilding team, and block spots on multi-year contracts and whatnot. So instead, we gave these guys 1-year deals, and it's either, hey, we're going to be good because we have these guys, or they're going to have good seasons and we're going to trade them at the deadline. That's basically what we're going to be doing with these guys. So Michael Conforto, a 1-year, $25.5 million contract for Michael Conforto to be a platoon bat against right-handed pitching as a lefty. Obviously, much better against righties than he is against lefties. I don't think I'm able to see his splits from last season. Yeah, I can't see his splits from last season, but trust me, when they were still popping up here, they were very, very exaggerated towards right-handed pitching, and then against lefties was just getting absolutely eaten up. So he's going to play against righties for us. We also picked up Wilmer Flores as a $30 million left-handed short-side platoon player. So Wilmer Flores, once again, he was another guy. Last year at the Giants, traded to the Dodgers at the deadline, or the Angels at the deadline, rather. He was another guy. Splits were very, very drastic towards the short side of the platoon against left-handed pitching. As you can see, mashes lefties. Not the greatest against righties. So, Wilmer Flores, the $30 million short-handed platoon guy. And then we also picked up Andrew Kittredge, who, don't love the outspoken personality class, but extreme ground ball, really good control and movement. He's going to be in our bullpen as a stopper along with Tanner Banks at the back end of our bullpen this season. So we have Kittredge and Tanner Banks, two white guys with mustaches, double barrel action as our stoppers in the bullpen. And then before we start going over what our team looks like heading into 2025, couple injury updates here. Besides Walker Buehler, Jordan Liager has 4 weeks left on his injury. Hopefully he'll be back. He will be back at some point this season, obviously, but hopefully he is good for us like he was last year. And then Colson Montgomery, unfortunately, got hurt in spring training with a rotator cuff strain, coming off a really good season in 2024. He was going to be like our 2-3 hitter this year. Still hopefully going to be that, but right now not going to be the case as he starts the season on the IL. And then also Drew Thorpe here, just a mild injury. He'll be back by the time that he starts, or we might have to push his start back. It looks like we have an off day. Yeah, we have an off day, so he should be fine to start by the time that his start is lined up. Or actually, no, maybe he won't. We might have to push Drew Thorpe down in the rotation. We'll probably leave him there, and I'll manually change that when we get to that point. But yeah, Drew Thorpe, couple day injury here, oblique strain. Is it going to show? Here we go. News involving player. Off-field accident. He got an oblique strain skipping stones at a lake. I don't know how you do that, but he did. But now going into what our bullpen and rotation looks like here, 1 to 5, it is Quintana, Drew Thorpe, Matthew Boyd, Jack Flaherty, who we picked up on a minor league contract, the Harvard Westlake man, 29 years old. We signed him to a minor league deal. He is going to be on our team here to start the season. Spent last season split between the Angels and the Tigers. Wasn't really great in either spot, but we're hoping he can be good behind what we're hoping is a good defense this season. Then we also have Landon Knack in that 5th spot in the rotation. We picked him up from the Dodgers last year. And then in the bullpen, like I said, Tanner Banks, who does not have a mustache in this, but I know does have a mustache in real life, or at least used to or did at one point. And then Kittredge as the other stopper in the double barrel action, while the rest of the bullpen is Colby Allard. Shout out to the Giants franchise. Lefty in our bullpen picked him up on a minor league deal as well. Good reliever, 50 overall, high leader, lefty guy. Figured he was worth giving a chance to. And then there's Nick Nastrini, Cody Funderburk, Huascar Brazaban, Mike Burrows, and Jason Foley, who we claimed off waivers from Detroit at the beginning of the offseason. So that is what our bullpen is looking like. I think it's actually looking pretty decent, honestly. It's just the rotation is going to be the limiting factor for us. But we do, limit these guys' innings. We have their hooks down super low or super quick. So we're hoping that the bullpen can really pick up the slack for us this season. We might have to do some couple openers or something, but for now, we're rocking with this. And then Colson Montgomery being out for the start of the season definitely throws a wrench in some things, but we do have our lineups here against righties and lefties done. It's going to be Edgar Caro leading things off catching, Brooks Lee playing second base, Ben Rice at DH, Michael Conforto in left field. Brooks Baldwin is playing third base for us. He's had some decent progression here. You can see here just plus all the way up here. And he's getting a chance to play third base for us with Colson Montgomery out to injury here to start the season. And then we also have Jacob Berry at first base. Christian Pache is indeed playing center field for us. Gage Workman is our shortstop. We claimed him off of waivers from Detroit as well. I just thought he was a really interesting player. His overall is not great, but 55 BABIP with a potential for 60, 65 gap, 50 I, potentially 50 power, good speed profile, really good defender, high adaptability. I just figured he seems interesting, so we're going to give him a shot at shortstop this year rather than Nicky Lopez, obviously, and we're going to see how he does. While the rest of the lineup is Dominic Fletcher in the 9th spot in playing in right field for us, while Pache plays in center. So we've got this guy playing center, and then we got Fletcher playing right field. So we got some really good outfield defense here in the south side of Chicago. Well, against the left-handed lineup, it's Kara leading off, Brooks Lee playing second base, or I guess he's playing second base against both, yeah. And then Baldwin's in left field because Conforto is not playing against left-handed pitching. Wilmer Flores is DHing and hitting fourth. Jacob Berry at first base. Caleb Durbin is playing third base for us here against left-handed pitching. The Lake Forest, Illinois man getting a shot to come in here and be a little scrappy infielder, steal some bags, don't strike out. You know, get a chance to actually to do something here, at least to start the season against lefties, and then as the main backup infielder against righties. But then the lefty lineup past Durbin is Workman playing shortstop once again, Pache, and then Dominic Fletcher rounds things out. While Dane Myers is our fourth outfielder, he is back on the roster. And then our only other position player who I haven't covered is Anthony Siegler. He is our backup catcher, high leader, really good eye. Picked him up in a trade from the Yankees last trade deadline. As, that is what our team is looking like here, offense and defense. And then just very quickly going through what our Dev Lab was this season, or the results of the Dev Lab. No improvement to, I'll just go through only the improvements. Christian Pache, outstanding improvement to his gap power, less than 5 to each of it. I don't know how that's outstanding, but still, you know, decent little player. Hopefully he's going to have an okay offensive season with some really, really good defensive capabilities in center field for us. Then we also had a success to Hudson Head. He improved his power by 5. He's starting the year in Double-A. We'll probably be in Triple-A at some point, but we're pretty deep when it comes to outfielders, so I just wanted, to spread these guys out so we have guys playing as much as we want them to. But he's definitely an interesting player who could be up in the big leagues at some point. Kai Bush, he actually, I think what happened was that he just happened to add a knuckle curve to his repertoire right before the trade deadline, or right before the Dev Lab got successful. So once it finished, it just improved his knuckle curve to a 40. I was hoping it was going to improve one of these pitches, but we got unlucky that the game just gave him a knuckle curve and then made it a still bad pitch. So that sucks. Jonathan Santucci, he improved his control by 5. He's actually starting the year in Double-A here with the Birmingham Barons. I'm sure he'll be in the rotation. I just recently sent him down, though. But yeah, Santucci up with the Barons right now. And then those are the only successful ones for the first group of Dev Labs. Then for the defensive ones, we had a couple successes. Brooks Lee improved some of his defense here. You can see his arm by 5, the rest by less than 5. This is what it now looks like. I don't know if it's changed at all here or not, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But in this game, when this says 5, it is a direct correlation to this is 5. Maybe it was 55. I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't, but like most of the time, when this says 5, it means that the thing went up 5 on here, rather than in 26, where it's telling you some number that means nothing. And I don't know. I'm not going to go rant about 26. The game sucks. We all know that. Anyways, Michael Massey, who we picked up off waivers from the Kansas City Royals. I almost said Chiefs. I'm so football pilled, but Michael Massey, Illinois guy through and through, from Illinois, went to Illinois. He's a Fighting Illini. You don't go to heaven, you go to Champaign, Illinois. So we claimed him because he had multiple options, and just figured, why not give him a shot? He's not on our team to start, but he is in AAA for us, and we might be seeing him at some point. And he did improve his defense a little bit here, as well as Colson Montgomery improved his defense. You could see looking like he was going to be a decent third base defender for us this season. At least we were hoping. And then we also had an improvement to Brooks Baldwin, who his stuff is actually quite noticeable. His range, error, and double play all went up by 5. They're all into the teal section now, all of them 60 respectively between those 3 categories, as well as just an all-around good bat as a switch hitter. Not really a slouch against either side. And then just to show, Ben Rice did have a poor catcher program, but fortunately he did not have any noticeable changes to his defense. And then just quickly going through the preseason predictions, the Orioles are projected to win the East with the Red Sox and Rays behind them being competitive, while the Guardians are projected to win the Central with the Tigers and Twins behind them competitive. They don't think we're going to be competitive at all at 65 wins, but we've proven this wrong plenty of times. In the West, the Mariners, defending champs, are projected to win that division with the Rangers behind them. While in the National League, we have the Braves, Marlins, and Mets competitive in the National League East. Then in the Central, we have the Cardinals beating out the Reds and Brewers. And then in the West, we have the Dodgers beating out the Giants and the Padres. So we are now ready for the 2025 campaign, as we are going to try to improve our win total, I guess. We won 72 games last year, 61 the year before that in real life in 2023. Can we get more than 72 here in 2025?